It is depressing that things seem in many ways to be going in the wrong direction in Sri Lanka, with an increasing presence of military and former military figures in civilian life, in government appointments, and of course the recent pardon of one of the very few soldiers who have been convicted of war crimes. So there is, I'm afraid, the situation continues to be grave. But I want to assure you that in Parliament, you have many Conservative friends determined that we will keep speaking up for justice for Tamils in Sri Lanka. We will keep speaking up for accountability for those who committed war crimes and human rights abuses during the conflict. And we will not forget that, as that video, that very moving film just showed, there are still many human rights abuses going on as we speak, not least the continuing denial of the truth from those whose relatives were disappeared and remain missing, and about which we do not know their fate. So this is a time to reflect on that very serious situation, the sadness of the continuing problems in Sri Lanka. But also I'd like to end on a happy and optimistic note. This event is also always an occasion to celebrate the incredible contribution and success of the British Tamil community, and I wish you well for the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those incredibly well thought out and well expressed words, Teresa. Very much appreciated. Let's go straight to Bob Blackman, the Member of Parliament for Harrow East.
Right. Okay, good. Thank you. Pleasure to be with you once again, although we obviously meet in a virtual fashion rather than physically this year. I think one of the opportunities this has given us, of course, is to enable people that otherwise would not have attended this type of event because they weren't able to go to party conference. So I think in some ways that's an advantage, and I would like to thank, obviously, the Conservative Tamils, British Tamil Conservative Association, for all the work that you've done right throughout many years. This is not something new. This is something that's been going on in terms of support for very many years, and I salute each and every one of you for the work that you've done. I've had the opportunity of visiting Sri Lanka on one occasion where we toured the country from Colombo right up to the northeast and in various different parts. The reality is that we can still see, even now, unfortunately, the damage that was done during that terrible bloody civil war, and the work that has to go on to repair the damage right across the country. But equally making sure that the people who committed war crimes are brought to justice, and that the land is made safe for the Tamil communities who live there to be able to use for fishing, for farming, and the other means of their livelihoods, indeed living in suitable accommodation. I think the reality is that we've seen, unfortunately, the position in Sri Lanka worsening in many ways in terms of the tendency of the government not to face up to the atrocities that were committed and failing to bring to justice those responsible. Even in this country, we have seen representatives of that government, military attaches, demonstrating complete contempt for the British Tamils. So I think we need to, I think, keep up the pressure. I was one of those that was very keen for David Cameron, as Prime Minister, to go to the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting held in Sri Lanka, as long as he went to the Tamil heartland as well, to see for himself what the position was on the ground. I think that was terribly important and sent the right sort of signals to the Sri Lankan government. I also think that the different minorities in Sri Lanka have been badly treated right across the piece, and that is a responsibility of the Sri Lankan government. It's important that we keep up the pressure, and we must keep up the pressure on the British government to maintain a position of saying those responsible for atrocities must be brought to justice. That justice must be not only done but seen to be done unfortunately, the thousands of people who are still missing. We don't know what happened to them. We just know that they're no longer around. But their relatives deserve closure on what happened to them at the end of that terrible civil war. And the reality is that until that happens, then the Sri Lankan government will continue to have blood on its hands and therefore have to account to the international community for what they've done. But on a pleasurable note, I would just say thank you to all those from British Tamil Conservatives who came and helped during the general election in 2019, helped me produce an excellent result in Harrow East and right across the country. The one thing I think we can say about British Tamil Conservatives is they are first and foremost a campaigning organisation who are not too proud or too ashamed or too lazy to roll up their sleeves and get on with the job of campaigning. They don't just come for the photographs, they come and do the work. And that's something I'm really pleased about, that you've continued to do that over many, many years and you continue your campaign. So my best wishes to all of you, and we will continue the campaign, continue the support in Parliament and beyond until justice is done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bob. Now, it is a testament, as always, to the high demand for these events that there is a queue of speakers in real life normally, queuing out the door, but also digitally. So if you wouldn't mind, once you have spoken, watching the feed from outside, then that would allow us to get some other speakers, and that would be very, very much appreciated. And already Bob has gone. Wonderful. Thank you so much for that support. We're going to go straight to our next speaker, which of course is Jillian Keegan, the Minister for Apprenticeships and Skills. Over to you, Jillian.
Hi, thank you so much, and sorry about the tech problems. I guess that's something we all have to live with today, but it's a great pleasure to join you all. I'm sorry we can't join in person, but it's always one of the best events at the conference, and of course now we've got this digital version which can never be as good. I want to talk a little bit more about the future. I know that the British Tamil Conservatives have always been strong advocates for social mobility, aspiration, the ability to get on in life. And it's a great pleasure of mine to be the Minister for Apprenticeships and Skills, which includes effectively all the further education, technical qualifications, the new T-levels, and all the things we're doing to try and help young people in particular during this incredible disruption that we're living with, this economic disruption that we're living with as a result of coronavirus. So I just wanted to talk to you and share a few things that we're doing in terms of how we're supporting young people, social mobility and aspiration, which I know is something that is really important to every single one of you on this live stream. Many of you will have seen last week the Prime Minister did an announcement about skills and what we're going to do to really beef up that sector and offer many more adults as well as young people the chance to retrain. The world that everyone's working in now is very fast moving and has been even more fast moving through coronavirus. So we've been massively focused on making sure that we have the right offer for the 21st century, for the skills that we have many skill shortages still in the country, and that people get the chance, whether they're starting out or whether they're midway through their career, to go back to study, to embark on their first career or second career in something that we have massive skills shortages. And they are in every sector: construction, engineering, teaching, policing, digital, anything to do with health and social care, massive skill shortages. So what we're trying to do, building on, I know something which is a key message for you and for your communities, is making sure that everybody has a really good shot at building a brilliant career from wherever they're coming from whatever background, from whatever academic background, and most importantly now, from whatever age and stage they are in life.
Such an important subject, particularly for everyone really, but particularly I know for in the Tamil community, that the subject of education and skills and building up the future generations so they can compete in the modern world is unbelievably important. So thank you very much for your time this evening, and hope you have a good rest of the conference. Now we're going to try the London Assembly member again, Keith Prince. Hopefully you're there and you can hear us. If you can, it's over to you.
Good evening, and I think they say third time lucky, and hopefully you can hear me and it's all good. So first of all, I'd like to thank the Tamil community for their contribution to our great nation. More importantly for me, obviously, I'd like to thank the Tamil Conservatives for all the hard work they have done in helping me throughout the years. But I am saddened to say that I've been speaking at Tamil events for quite a few years now. And even though this is 10 years now since the war finished, we are still seeing atrocities. We're still seeing breaches of human rights. And that just cannot be right. More disappointingly, of course, we've seen that the Tamil government have now withdrawn from the United Nations agreements that they had to bring about a resolution, to bring about justice and reconciliation. I think that's a very dangerous direction in which they're heading, and I think it's incumbent upon our nations such as Great Britain, Europe, USA to join together to really impress upon the Tamil government that that is not acceptable and that we must have reconciliation. We must have a recognition that there have been war crimes and those who committed those crimes must be brought to justice. As was said earlier by one of our speakers, there is in our 2019 a manifesto commitment that we do have some recognition of this and that we work towards having an international form, an international group that can actually go around and sort out these issues. Now, I think as a Conservative and my Conservative colleagues, it's now down to us to actually get in touch with Boris Johnson and make sure that he does hold firm to those 2019 manifesto commitments. So I will certainly be doing that for you, and I know that my colleagues will too. So I'm going to conclude in just saying once again a big thank you to what you do for our country. Thank you for all those who come out and support me, and you've been out in numbers over the years, and I really appreciate that. Can I just give a quick heads up to Hazel Weinberg, who is on your committee and does a lot of work and keeps me informed on an ongoing basis what's happening. So thank you for that, Hazel, personally. But thank you very much for your time. Sorry about all the technological problems, but hey, we got there in the end. Thank you.
We absolutely did. Thank you very much, Keith. Well worth the wait. Now, I think we have reached, sadly, we've reached the end of our live event this evening. So I'm going to hand over for final conclusion, set of thank yous to a man who needs no introduction. Aru, over to you.
Thank you, Mario. Thank you very much for hosting this event. What can I say? Tariq, thank you for the great work you do on justice, accountability and reconciliation. Very grateful for this. Steve, for being a stalwart of the APPG for 10 years and supporting us. Paul, for the brilliant role as chair of the APPG, former chair and a great friend of the community. Elliot, I think very important. You did something very important, which was to unseat Tom Brake. That was huge. And of course, taking on the role of the new chair of the APPG. Robert, for the fantastic work you do on genocide recognition, very grateful for this, for speaking out on this issue. It's very dear to us. Jackie, what can I say, for 10 years, and your victories are some of our sweetest. Teresa, Bob, words are not sufficient to express our gratitude as a community and on a personal level, deeply indebted to the work you've done. Jillian, thank you for the work you do on education. Education is really a top priority for our community. As a community, we have the best educational metrics in the country, measured by SATs and O levels. So very grateful for that. Keith, for over a decade, you stood by us. Once again, very, very grateful. I'd like to acknowledge two people who are probably listening in here, but not present, and Lee Scott. Thank you, Lee. We never forget our friends. Huge debt of gratitude we owe to you. And of course, Lord Barwell, Gavin, once again, you did so much for us, and you winning in 2015 was one of our sweetest moments. I'm really not going to speak about on the justice, accountability and reconciliation aspect, because I think I cannot really articulate it any better than what you have. But what I will say is, for us, the 2019 general election campaign was a huge success. We didn't lose in London. We maintained the status quo ante in London, and I think that was a huge result. We took on. Our motto was that famous motto with General Robert Nivelle used at the Battle of Verdun. Il ne passera pas. It started off at Chipping Barnet, but I think now it will be Chipping Barnet, Carshalton, Wallington, Wimbledon, Chingford and Woodford Green. They shall not pass these constituencies, not if we have anything to do with this in 2024. But I also do hope we don't have a general election before 2024. It's been hard. It's been a hard slog this decade. Thank you very much. Eternal debt of gratitude to all of you. And as I said, what you've articulated here on justice, accountability and reconciliation and the fight for genocide recognition, I cannot do any better. And what can I say? Thank you to all of you. Thank you to the Conservative Party. And as I said, il ne passera pas. Chipping Barnet, Carshalton, Wallington, Wimbledon, Chingford, Woodford Green. And I know, Robert in Harlow and Bob in Harrow East and Jackie in Thurrock, they worry. But for us, it was very clear from the outset that they were going to have resounding victories this election. So very grateful. And thank you, Maria, for hosting this. I'd like to thank you, everyone who's been watching this remotely. And I'd like to thank Gajan personally here. He's our tech whiz. He's our AI expert. And without him, I don't think we could have executed this event on this platform. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aru. I think we're going to also thank some people who sadly could not get in. The queue was too big. Those people include James Cleverly, Lee Scott, who Aru's mentioned, Chris Grayling, and Dean Russell, who I'm sure send their good wishes and will echo all of the sentiments that Aru and the other speakers have made over the course of a very entertaining evening from my part. We're going to close this event with a video produced by the team. Thank you and have a lovely evening.
ஓரறிவு முதல் ஆறறிவு உயிரினம் வரையிலே உணர்ந்திடும் உடலமைப்பை பகுத்து கூறும்
ஓரறிவு முதல் ஆறறிவு உயிரினம் வரையிலே உணர்ந்திடும் உடலமைப்பை பகுத்து கூறும்
தொல்காப்புகள் தொல்காப்பியமும் ஒப்பற்ற குரல் கூறும் உயர் பண்பாடு ஒலிக்கின்ற சிலம்பும் மேகலையும் சிந்தாமணியுடனே வளையாமதி புல்தலகேசியோ செம்மொழியான தமிழ் மொழியா
கவியரசியவே